Hello everyone, welcome to Distilling Insight YouTube channel. Today we'll be speaking on the topic and focusing on conditional logic in Excel using the if function. Today's topic, as I said earlier, is going to saddle on the use of if and nested if statements to make decisions based on the cell values. Our last class was on relative and absolute references, and I hope you've gone through that lesson and you've learned from them. Now, on this topic, you look at my screen and you see that you're seeing data's grading and remarks. You're seeing some grading systems and the other grading system, about two of them. So one thing is that this kind of formula are being used by teachers, lecturers, business performance managers, in the corporate world and for sales managers and every other person. This allows to make a comparison between one value or the other, whether it's going to give us a true statement, a false, or which other parameter we are trying to use. So one thing that I want us to do today is that I'll be using this data on the screen. I intentionally put up this data in order to save our time. So I'll be look at this remark. The syntax that is written there is that if F2 is greater than 65, then the person pass. If F2 is greater than 65, F2 here is the total score. And if not, it's going to be failed. This is for the if statement, the if statement. But when we talk about nested if statements, that talks about the if statements that are in if statements, that is like onions that is wrapped among or within itself. That's the way the nested if statement is going to work. So I'll be eliminating all of this in order for us to understand the breakdown of how it works. So I will advise you follow me. This is just a data of a particular student in a class, that for a mathematical class, in which the test was scored at overall of 20. The first test, the second mathematics test is also 20, and the exam is 60 mark. So now the total score of each student has been stated. So we want to know those that have passed and those that have failed. So the benchmark for them to pass is 50. I'll be using 50, unlike the other time that was 65. So in order for us to know at a glance whether this person pass or fail, you know, when you're using a formula in an Excel, you need to use the equality sign. So equal to, then the if. The if here is going to be the if statement. That's what we are dealing with first, the if statement. If is a conditional word, and it means so thing will happen if something is true or false. So if our F2, which is the value we're using, is greater than or equal to 50, that's the benchmark we want to use. That if whatever we have in F2, I will prefer the capital letter, though it's still the same thing. It makes no difference. Then comma will need to be placed there because you need to separate the actual syntax that you are saying, which is if F2 is greater than or equal to 50, then you put your full column to impute whether it is the true, false, or is a pass or a fail. Now you separate this with a comma, then you also put this again and you put fail. So always remember to close the brackets. At this point, once you enter, once you click on the enter button, it gives the status of the request. Meaning, at this point, once I click down, it means all of the students in this class passed mathematics, because the condition that we have been given is that if F2 is greater than 50, then they pass. If not, they fail. Now let's go to the next one. The next one is speaking on F3. You remember that in the last class we spoke about the relative references. So this is also a reminder of the relative reference, because immediately we click on the formula for the F2, it's automatically replicated it for each of the F, which is F3, F4, F5. When we go down, you see F4, F5, F6, F7, like that, like that, like that. So it's as simple as this. The if statement, and you can as well just decide that if 60 is the pass mark, let's check if everybody pass. Well, I did that here. If we click it down, it's impacted that immediately. And if we also want to consider that for the upward request, it also impacted that immediately. And you also see the relativity, the relative references. Now you see that 60 is the pass mark, everybody still pass. 60 is the pass mark. If 60 is the pass mark from this table or from this data, everybody still pass. Now the nested if is the if that is inside that if. This is used for grading of you separating them based on, like, the first grading system that is here. You see that the first one is 75 to 100 is A1, 70 to 74 is B2, like that, like that, like that. The second grading, which is here, shows that the 70 to 100 is A, 60 to 69 is B, 50 to 59 is C, and so on and so forth. So I'll be using this as the first grading example that I'm going to be using now. It's simple, just follow through. Now, the nested if is an if in an if in if. So equality sign, if, then you open the bracket, which is the first bracket. The score is what you are considering here. So it's still F2 is greater than or equal to 75. Then the comma. So what you are saying here is that if it is greater than or equal to 75, then the person is having A1. Then you separate it with a comma. So I will advise, to ease your work, you can just copy all of this. Copy, then paste it. Now note, what I just done here is that I'm saying the second if that is inside the first if is that now if 75, the score on this F2 is greater than or equal to 75, then it is A1. Now the next thing is, if it is greater than or equal to 70, then that is B2. Then if F2 is greater than or equal to 65, then that's B3. Then if F2, I'm only pasting what I've copied from the inception in order to ease and to not to make mistake while typing. So if F2 is greater than or equals to 60, then it will be C4. Then if F2 is greater than or equal to 55, then that is C5. Then if F2 is greater than or equal to 50, that's C6. Next, if F2 is greater than or equal to 45, then that is D7. Next, if F2 is greater than or equal to 40, that's E8. Now, if any of those requests are not met, I mean if any of those conditions are not met, then it means the person is going to have F9. Now, for the person to have F9, please note this point. At this point, you need to be conscious of the number of brackets that has been opened. That's the same number of brackets that you must close. So the first bracket, if you count from the first one, for the F2 greater than or equal to 75, we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. The fourth, the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So it means you'll be closing 8 brackets. The first bracket is for this. The second bracket is for this. The third is for all of this. The fourth is for all of this. The fifth is for all of this. The sixth then is for all of this. The seventh is for all of this. The eighth is from the beginning to the end. Then you press your enter key. With this, you'll be able to get the results. So just at a glance, you know how the grading is done. For external exams for secondary students, like in country like ours, you realize that the grading system is done in such a way that it has been categorized. And with that, you'll be able to know what the students really score, whether it is an A1, B2, C3, B3, C4, C5, C6, D7, E8, or F9. Fortunately, none of the students here got that score. Now, I want to also use the second grading system to make the example that we're actually working on. So I'm going to be deleting this. Now, let's assume that the if nested if is going to be working for the second grading system. So it means F2 is greater than or equal to 70. So at that point, you need to have A, not A1 like before. Then like I said, you can copy this from the if downward, and once you enter it again, now the next one is 60, that is B. Then you paste. If F2 is greater than 50, that is C. You paste again. If F2 is greater than 45, that is D. If F2 is greater than 40, that is E. If F2, now at this point, if F2 is now less than 40, we already know what the figure is there. Then we'll put our F and close the brackets. No, not just one bracket, so I'm deleting that. So let's count the number of brackets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll be closing with 5 brackets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the enter. So by the time we check the grade of each of these students, we'll have it in this way. So if I just do this, you realize that the previous one and this are actually presenting the responses in different manner. And if you permit me, I will just copy this formula in order to save our time, just for us to compare and contrast what is being written there. just for us to have a feel of what we have done. So with this, we know that it's as easy as it should be on how to calculate, to use if and the nested if. In the next class, we'll be dealing with more complex if statements like if not, if and if or. That will be for more complex data analysis. But as promised that in this Excel series, it's going to be kept short in order for us to ease concentration, ease of watching, and enhances retention. Also, please ensure you share with a friend, like, subscribe, and tarry for more as more and more things are coming your way. Ensure to subscribe as I've said before. Bye bye.